Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Clacton, and along with me is elite obstacle court racer and our own sled pulling superstar, Bethany McChesney. And today we have one of the, I don't want to call it a surprise of the latest Hyrox US Championships because, because I called it again. I did. I really did. Well, close. I called you third. You wrecked my bracket, actually. Dylan Scott, man, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. And you can't say that I didn't wreck your bracket. Brent Hastert wrecked your bracket.
Brent wrecked it pretty bad.
I threw your bracket a little off, but you still could have had like the 1, 2, 3 right. Brent was like, nah, I just really want to make sure that Dave's bracket is wrong.
How many wall balls did he go in a row? Because I mean, he came in there like I think he must have made up like 40 seconds or so on the wall balls.
Yeah, he did 76 unbroken.
Wow.
He's a beast, man. I knew he was good. I mean, I saw his times before. I knew he was rocking pretty good. I knew I thought that fight for third would be huge. I mean, I thought you'd be in there, Rich Ryan would be in there, he'd be in there, Cole would be in there. I thought it would be a monstrous fight for that third spot. And wow, yeah, he showed up. I mean, Dave had a bad day. We saw that.
Yeah.
But so let's just jump right into Hyrox, right? We're gonna work back to front today. And we'll go with what happened just recently, and then we'll drop into the past history. So you got Chicago, and how'd they go with the trip to Chicago? Because I mean, some people had some issues getting there with weather.
So with regards to getting there, I didn't have any issues. The trip home was the issues I had with weather. That delayed me more than anything. But getting there was smooth. For me, like the morning of, I normally get up before a race and I'll bike for about 45 minutes to an hour on that Friday if I'm racing on a Saturday. And then I like to take that that Friday afternoon and do some kind of shakeout with a little bit of speed thrown in there. So basically we got into Chicago, got everything to the hotel. I went out, did a little jog down to Navy Pier, figured out where everything was, did a couple of 400s at a little bit of a quicker tempo. Then jogged it back and was easy night. Nothing really to complain about. I might have bemoaned some of the traffic because I come from more of a rural area. So I'm driving through here. I'm like, what? Why are there people? I'm used to cows and like horses, and now there's people. And we don't have this in rural New Hampshire.
Oh man. So you got there, everything's good. You're up the next morning. You're ready, getting ready to go. And are you used to tornado warnings? Is that something you're used to?
Having lived in South Carolina for like the vast majority of my life, yes, that's not that. I wasn't like freaking out. Tornadoes do tend to happen. I mean, more so in the Midwest, kind of center part, but we definitely had plenty of those. So I think honestly, my legs as the day was progressing were starting to feel better. And so when I was like, I'm going to get an extra hour, I'll take it. I'll just go sit down. So I really wasn't that upset about it. So I had my family there with me and my mom, they had gone off for a minute and I called her and let her know. And she was like, well, is this going to throw you off? I was like, actually, Mom, I think this might be a good thing. So we're just going to let it roll. So yeah, that I don't know if it played much to my advantage, but it definitely wasn't a detriment.
Yeah, man. Now you went and you got to the starting line, and you were coming to this. I spoke to you a little bit before online and stuff. You were confident, man. You were ready to go, and this is some big boys to be confident with, and to have, like you said, you told me, I believe you were hoping to shoot for like a 62. Now you didn't quite get there, but you had a really good score, and I mean, like it was like you definitely believed in yourself. And what made you believe so much in yourself? How did you think that you would?
So I said 62:30 was kind of the benchmark that I had set for myself. And I wanted to be on the podium. Those are the two things that I had in my head. And I think where that confidence came from was because I had metrics for what I was like pushing and pulling on the sleds at my home gym and what I was doing in my workouts on the rower and the ski erg and even my running workouts before Dallas. And all of those had shifted in the positive direction. And so I was like, I'm moving heavier weights. I'm rowing faster. I'm skiing faster. I'm running better. And I was like, everything had bumped up a level. And so normally that translates for me on race day. I'm trying to think I haven't had many times in the past where I've like shown up to the line having had a good training block and then just failed to execute.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident that as long as I didn't do anything boneheaded in the days leading up to it, or I got sick or anything to that effect, that it was going to work out that way. And so luckily I didn't do anything boneheaded and I didn't get sick.
Well, and I mean,
Do
I
you
think,
do, sorry, do you do full simulations before the event?
Um, no, I was going to. So before Dallas, I did one that was kind of a full simulation. I didn't have access to a rower and a ski erg at the gym that I was at when I did that. So what I did was I doubled the sled pull and doubled the burpee broad jumps and the lunges, and it actually extended it. So the thing was it was 10K worth of running, and then doubled over the other two, and then added in wall balls and finished on a run. So if that makes sense, it ended up working out 10K worth of rowing, double the other stations, added, so 9 stations, 10Ks of run. And that was before Dallas. And I walked away from that and was like, that was really good. And so the Saturday before this race, I was going to do that again, but I didn't feel like it. Like my body didn't feel good. And so even though I think people kind of see that I do a lot of crazy big workouts, I will listen to myself and I'll go, today's not the day. Like my back wasn't feeling great. My legs felt just really sluggish. I was like, this is not the day to go do a simulation. You're only going to psych yourself out and you've already built a lot of fitness. So just avoid it. Sit on the couch, eat some popcorn. I don't know. Just.
Yeah, because like a lot of people, especially I think back before Miami in 2019, a lot of people, a lot of good guys went out and did full simulations all the time. Like Bracken, who was with me on the commentary, he was a guy who was breaking the world record in a simulation. And I'm not trying to knock Bracken because a lot of people had that same deal and then went in there and went, holy shit, I was like 15 minutes slower in the race than I was in my simulations. So when you say you did some sim work and whatever, and then you went in with a lot of confidence, I mean, it's interesting to try to figure out what made yours different compared to theirs, back.
So I think the difference was I had talked to a lot of people and they were like, don't trust your simulations. And so I didn't. My simulation of 9 stations with 10K of running was in the 66-minute range. And so I looked at that and said, okay, I can kind of trust that one because I ran 2 extra kilometers and did a whole extra station. And I didn't do the rowing and the skiing. I did extra sleds and stuff like that, stuff that should really put the crap in your legs. Yeah. So I was like, I think I can trust that one going into Dallas, and it translated pretty well. And then after that, I just sort of knew what the other benchmarks had been that weren't simulations, but I was hitting them again and exceeding them anyway. So I knew where that should translate from a fitness standpoint. Yeah, don't trust the simulation. They will lie to you all day long. It is nothing like the real event. The sled I don't know why they're so much heavier, but God, they're so heavier.
All right, man. So walk us through it. You came out, you get out the starting line, gun goes, you guys are finally off and running. I mean, obviously all of these go out to way faster pace right at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Victor was in the warm-up area saying, he was like, I'm going to go out really hard. And I just looked at him and I was like, all right, this is a terrible idea. Like I told him, I was like, Victor, this is a really bad idea. He's like, no, that's what I have to do. I'm like, okay, that's what you have to do. I will not be joining you. And that is exactly what he did. And so he went, and then there's like a group of 3, which was Hunter, Rich, and David. And they went, and then there was like a little bit of maybe, I don't know, 5 meters or so back to that kind of third pack of like me, Caleb, Brent, and we were all just sort of sitting in that. And so I negotiated up to the front of that pack and just kind of held that. And I was like, if I'm 5 meters behind going into the ski erg, that's fine. And then the whole thing there was I had a mark that I wanted to hit, and that was to sit around 148. Sat right there on that number, came off the erg third because Caleb Yates pulled really hard on the ski erg, came off second. And I was like, I mean, I'm not going to chase Hunter. It's not worth it. It's not a good idea. I know where my ceiling is on this day, and my ceiling is second place. And maybe some people don't like when athletes have that mindset where they're like, you need to come out there and you need to think you're going to win it. And don't get me wrong, if I got to the lunges and by some grace of God, I was right there beside him, I'd be like, all all right, well, I guess we go for it. But early on in the race, no, it's a bad idea.
So you came through there and you had a good skier. You were 352 on the skier. You had a solid second run, 340. You get to the sled push, and this is where I think you surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
And to quote VJ, some lean body sorcery.
Yeah, so that's what he goes off of. I've seen that before. Is that some kind of programming he does? I
don't think so. That's
don't. Okay, that's what he calls it. All right, I didn't.
Just his catchphrase.
Okay, look, it was catchy enough that I was like, maybe this is like his training philosophy, and it's like something that they train off of there. Sure, we can call it that. Let's commandeer that and bring it on over. That's what it is. It's sorcery in my own way of it. But yeah, I learned from Robert Killian in Dallas. I watched him because leading into the race, he was the other guy there who had like a similar body style to me. And I was like, how is he going to move this sled? And so I watched him, and then I went to the warm-up area and I did it. And immediately I recognized that this works best for me. And now walking away from Dallas, I didn't think that I was going to ever get strong enough to be able to transition away from that again. But I was like, I can get stronger and just keep using that same pattern and technique. So I knew based on what I had pushed before Dallas and what I had pushed leading into this. And then I touched the sledge just a little bit before the race. And my girlfriend was sitting over there in the warm-up area, and I walked over to her and I was like, that moved a lot easier than I think they think it's supposed to move for me right now. And I'm like, this is going really well. I was like, I think this might go a lot better than I was anticipating on these sleds. And it did. So it moved.
And the tech, and you're talking about the different technique you use. What exactly? Just quick description.
Yeah. So basically what I do is I take my left shoulder and put it into that center post, and I flip my hands to where my palms are facing in up against the two posts to the outside, and my thumbs are facing forward. I just slightly lift, and then I really drive through kind of the neck into that trap area, as opposed to like that just front facing driving up with the hands. So it's just a slight lift. I'm not trying to get it very high off the ground and then just drive through the shoulder. The only thing that you kind of get with that is it does cause your back to get really tight. Because being long, I kind of round forward to get down onto it. And so you're pushing with a little bit of a curved spine. So I don't train that way. I think that there'd be a high risk of injury training that way. I train pushing it normally. But pushing the sled that way for 50 meters is enough that I don't think it's going to really cause any injury on race day. And it gets me down and back the way that I need to go.
So you went through that. You were looking solid at that point. We're like, hey, he's doing really well here. And you get to the sled pull, and that's to me when all of a sudden at the sled pull, from my viewpoint, looked like, okay, he's passing Megita here.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of surprised me too. When it started moving really well, I really started to get a feel for it after the second pull. I started to get a feel for exactly how to position myself as I was walking back to use the least amount of energy but keep the momentum going. And I mean, I started to see that gap open up a little bit. I was watching Brent off to the side because he had actually caught me and passed me on the sled push, which didn't surprise me.
No, he's a big, strong dude.
Yeah, very strong dude. So he caught me, passed me there, passed him on the run. And then I saw that I was like, I think I'm going to come off the pulls in front of both of these guys. And while my race plan was to try to make sure that I came off the Burpee broad jumps by passing them through that, coming off the pulls and already being ahead of both of them was a big win mentally. And sometimes in a race that length, those mind games start to play a factor, and they definitely played a factor later on, and we'll end up hitting that station in a minute.
Yeah. Well, keep going, man. Just keep going through it then.
Yeah. So, I mean, we come out of that, we get into the Burpee broad jumps. And I didn't do that station very well, to be honest. I watch it back and I'm like, that looks sloppy. It looks slow. I look sluggish. And so that's something I'll go back and work on. My split there was, I think, 244. Yeah. And it was middle of the pack kind of split. And that's something that I should have been better at. But I think some of that was also, I was kind of peeking back over my shoulder, starting to look like, all right, what actual gap did I get there? And then we come off of that, and that's when Hunter is actually coming around and puts me down a lap, which in a way wasn't a bad thing because I just hooked onto the back of him until I found my legs again. And then I was able to kind of negotiate up and around him and start pushing a little bit more. So it did sort of help in a way to have him come up and catch me, because I was like, one, probably not beating the dude. Now that he's lapped me midway through the race, definitely not beating the dude. But he can pull me along a little bit. So I'm just going to hop in behind Hunter for a minute and let him pull me until my legs come back. And then I can start running my own race again. And so that's exactly what we did.
So yeah, you came off there, you got onto the row, you put in a good row.
Yeah. So,
which is different because a lot of people use that rower as a bit of a rest break, a bit of a get your breath back, but you dropped a bit of the hammer on there.
Yeah. So the row, I mean, I have watched the race back, so I do row a decent amount. And I was being a little bit tactical with saving my legs, which is why I kept shifting my rowing position. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'd bring the feet all the way, I'd bring my butt all the way up my feet and have like full leg extension going on. And then other times I was just like, you know what? I don't run with my back. I'm just going to use my back. So I would like kind of come forward and I'd just lean in and I'm like, all right, this is ugly, but it doesn't matter. It's making the little thing on the screen so I'm going fast. And that's all that matters right now. Like, my back's fine. We'll just yank this thing for 4 minutes and see what happens. So I started doing that, oscillating back and forth, trying to save the quads, because I knew, all right, we got wall balls and lunges still ahead. So there's no reason, if we're starting to get really lactic in those legs, we don't want that to build up. I don't want to pass that red line to where I can't ease it back down. But even with doing that, yeah, the pace was good. 352 on that split, actually the same as the ski erg. And I was kind of watching Hunter's screen, and I could see he was pulling the 145, 146 range. And then I was watching David when he sat down, and I saw like 150, 151. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to put 4 seconds on him here. So yeah, that was just kind of where things were sitting at that point.
I find that on the rower, that seems to be a spot where everybody assesses their position compared to everybody else. That's where everybody can take that moment, look right beside them and go, okay, I've got like this little bit gap here. I got, manage your gap, if you will.
Yeah. And that it also helps because you hear, they normally have somebody walking by and they'll like say, hey, this person's at 400 meters, this person's at 750. And so you can start to, if you don't have too bad of like race brain going on to where math is basically impossible, then you can start to do some calculations. You're like, all right, I'm 250 down. That means about 52 seconds. Like, you can start to add that up in your head. And so that's kind of what I was doing. Just getting a feel for, all right, how much gap am I putting in there? Because my race plan was to have 1 minute on whoever was in third going into the wall balls. I knew that's a safe enough cushion for almost anybody, except for somebody who could go up under 4. And I figured the person that would be sitting right behind me was going to be David if I was putting a gap and I was in second. And I was like, he's like a 420 guy on a good day, and I can go 5 minutes. And that's a big enough gap for me to hold.
So after that, what you carry on, you get your, you did the farmer's carry, very standard, pretty simplistic, not a big deal there.
Yeah. Yes and no. As you know from Rich's foray down in Orlando, I mean, him with his extremely sweaty hands, that was a station where both you and I felt the same thing. We're like, if Rich can figure out how to not take almost 4 or 5 minutes to carry these kettlebells, he's gonna really cut some time off here. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what his split was, but for me it was just get in, don't set them down, just go unbroken, and that was what we did. So
you made the whole way unbroken?
Yeah.
Nice. So at this point, had you kind of come into this situation where you're starting to go like, okay, I've got this locked down, I just need to?
So as I was like turning the corner to start to come back, I saw that David made the mistake of going into the lunges. And at that point, I knew that was mentally going to crush, like that was going to hurt. I'm not going to say that it would ever be something that would completely break him, because I don't think he would be somebody who would just like give up on a race, because he wouldn't. But I definitely knew that he was like, this kid has matched me in the push and the pull. And now I go into the wrong station late into the race when I should have been trying to close the gap down. And now I just bled 20 seconds or something. Yeah. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, well, sorry, David, but thank you. That'll help. And from that point, it was definitely, all right, pay attention and start to manage that gap.
And so you just, like I said, cruise through the lunges. You had a decent lunge. They went pretty well for you.
Yeah, they were fine. My legs were definitely feeling it at that point. I would say the lunges, I feel like the lunges in Dallas actually went better than the lunges here, to be honest. But I was kind of weaving in. I had to step around a couple of people, and it wasn't bad though. I mean, it was at the point where I think Matt Davis was there with like his camera, and I was just like I was talking to Matt actually. I just looked at him. I was like, Matt, there's so much lactic acid in my legs right now. I'm tired. Like, I was just complaining. I was like, they said the sandbag can't touch the ground. I don't think they said anything about you carrying it. Like, but yeah, so it was burning, and I was very happy to set it down. I was like, good, get off my back. Let's run, get to these wall balls. And that was when I was like, okay, I put a whole lap on Brent, and I was maybe 20 meters back from lapping David. And I was like, all right, that's all I need. Let's go to the wall balls and we'll be good.
And you just took a nice pace through the wall balls, nothing too crazy.
Nope. It was very relaxed for the most part. I got in there. I mean, it was no 76 unbroken, let me tell you. It was like maybe like 16. I was like, okay. And then going along. And finally they announced like where the gap was. And it was like 33 back to David. And I was at 60. I was like, all right, we're just going to do sets of 10s. Yeah. And we're going to finish this off. And so I don't have to like cross the finish line and collapse in a heap. I can just kind of walk across. So we left at 15.
So you get across in a 104.56, which was a big improvement from your last one. And, you know, you get the second. I imagine that must have felt pretty freaking amazing.
Oh, it was great. It was great. The second place here, I mean, was better than first place in Dallas for sure. Both of them were a sense of, I would say, validation. I'm not somebody who needs a lot of external validation. I'm very much an internally motivated individual, and I'm completely fine with that. But it does really help when you go on a big stage and perform, and you're like, okay, all of the time that I spend doing these things and all of the things that I might say no to are worth it. And what made Chicago worth it a lot more than even winning in Dallas was that in Dallas, I didn't have anybody there. Like I just flew there by myself, raced, and then hopped on another plane and went out to Arizona for a work trip. Here, I get to finish. Like I stay on the podium area for a little bit. Brent comes across. I'm losing my mind because I'm like, hell, we got third for you. Let's go. So we got that. And then my mom and my girlfriend are out there. And so, of course, I round the corner and I see them and I'm just picking everybody up.
That's impressive at that point.
Yeah. I'm just like, come here. I've got just race adrenaline going. So I'm like, I'll hug you. And like, you're sweaty. I'm like, what are you going to do? Run away? You just saw me. I'll catch you. Like, come on.
All right, so Bethany's been dying to this. We had to get through all that to just get through all that so that Beth can go. So because as a trainer and a coach, she's on edge here. So like Beth, have at him.
Oh yeah, we've just been talking a little bit about your training here. So we have a lot of questions. Your training is pretty unique. You have some pretty beefy workouts. We were kind of joking, saying some of your workouts look like you lost a bet to your buddies, and it's like, let's see if you can survive this workout. 100 times 20 movements, and you can't break up the hundreds of any of them. Like some of your workouts are just insane. So I'm just really curious how you plan your training and kind of how, do you base it off of times you want to be working for or the movements? So who plans these crazy workouts of yours?
So that would be me. I don't, if I do bet, it's normally not going to be based on like my workout. Because normally I think my friends would have a hard time programming a workout. I'd be like, That's all I lost on this bet. Okay. We're just gonna bet money. We're just gonna be like, all right, let's put money on the table. So yeah, I come up with all my workouts and everything like that. Or I might occasionally at the gym that I go to, they have a CrossFit area downstairs. I'll look up on their board and see what they have, and I'll just add that in for the day. As a trainer on your end, it probably will hurt you to hear me say, like, I have no programming at all. Like, I have no plan. I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. I woke up this morning and I had no plan for what I would do today. I knew I'd ride a bike at some point, because that's how I like to start my mornings. There's nothing. It's just, how do you feel? What is your upcoming race? Okay, let's work on things that are kind of geared towards that. And I will walk into the gym without having written down a single thing and walk over to a whiteboard and take 10 minutes, create a workout, and then go from there. And sometimes all I know is I have a block of time for how long I can work out for, or how long I want to work out for. And then I just fill it.
Wow.
I just fill it with movements. I fill it with, all right, I probably need to work on, I got to work heavy sleds today. Let's make up an EMOM for heavy sleds. I should probably work on running on tired legs. Let's do heavy sled work and then go into a tempo run. Stuff like that. It's just, it's very loose, and I function well with that. And it makes training in life a lot easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, go ahead.
No, man, I'm in awe.
I saw Bethany. She looked like she's about to say something, and I was gonna cut off.
Well, I was more just, do you balance then? Like, yesterday I went really hard, so today I'm gonna go really easy though.
Depends on how I feel. If I feel like I could go hard again, we rev it again. I'm very much like somebody who, if you catch the wave, ride it. And if not, just let it go by and wait for the next one. So there can be times where I'll train 4 hours, 5 hours a day, wake up the next day, feel good. Okay, again, feel good. Okay, again, feel like crap. All right, you're not training hard today. And that's just what happens. And then there might be 3 days in a row where I catch it and I'm like, I can't train hard. I can put in easy aerobic work today, and that's all we can do. And we're going to do that until my body tells me, okay, you can train hard again.
So do you find then you become very in tune with what your body needs? So you have days too where you're like, I'm doing nothing today and maybe nothing the next day.
Normally what happens is if I have a day where I'll do nothing, the next day is normally really, really big. Because my body feels really good, because I will sit down and just house some calories. I'll just I will not move. You'll be like, he hasn't gotten up yet. And if he does get up, it's just to grab a snack and to sit back down. And it's like, what is going on? Like, this is completely out of the normal for how I would be 6 days of the week. But
so you rest day pretty hard too then.
I rest day so hard. Our rest days are just as it would be just as impressive as a workout day. You're like, he's a bottomless pit. It doesn't end, does it?
Do you at least plan the television schedule while you're resting?
Oh no, that's just the same thing. I end up on YouTube, and next thing I know, I'm watching like a 2018 Monaco Diamond League race, like for track and field. And I'm like, oh, this was a good race. I remember that. And so, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. But I feel like I need those days. I need those days mentally, and I need those days physically, because sometimes I just want to cut off, and I'm like, I don't care if I get any better from a training perspective today. We're just gonna be lazy. I call them pancake days. And it's not because I eat pancakes, it's because I lay flat as a pancake all day long.
So you've had coaches in the past though.
Yeah. I mean, I started to become kind of self-coached probably around 17. So I had high school coaches up until then, and I still had high school coaches, but it became more of a partnership because I was I like to read a lot about the sport. And so I would come to them with like, hey, how's this workout idea sound? And maybe the whole team ends up doing it that day. And I promise they weren't as crazy as like what I program now. They were very like normal cross country track and field style workouts. I was pulling from like Jack Daniel's running formula, stuff like that. The Lore of Running, or just a couple of other books that would be kind of seminal in somebody's repertoire if they were to be well read in the running world.
So you have like that previous background, right? That previous running background. You have, like you said, you've read these books, you have this knowledge, you have done the research, and you came to the conclusion that these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm just going to do what I feel like.
Not particularly. I didn't come to that. I was so what happened was I used to be so regimented. Like I used to track everything, and I would plan out 3 months in ahead where my workouts were going to be, and I had split paces and all that stuff. And I was honestly unhappy. Like I didn't like it. I wasn't having fun as an athlete. And it didn't work for me because I had such high standards for myself with regards to how I needed to perform that I wouldn't listen to my body at all. And then I would go out there and I would absolutely just have a garbage workout. And then I'd be like, you're a terrible athlete. What are you doing? Like, and that wasn't fun. It was mentally not fun for me. And it wasn't fun for anybody around me because I was a jerk. And so I found that once I threw that out the window, training got to be a lot more fun. I became a lot more like flexible. I could train with other people because I wasn't like, I have to do this. I'm like, what are you doing today? All right, we'll scale it and change it around, and I'll do that with you. And then I'll go do something else. And it became about performance and doing well, but it also became about enjoyment. And I couldn't train as much as I do if I didn't like it.
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
25.
Man, I was so much more stupid then.
Well, I had the misfortune of missing like a whole 4-year kind of stretch. Well, 3-year stretch due to injury. And it made me reevaluate like everything because I was no longer Dylan the runner. I was no longer the guy who was the athlete because I couldn't run, couldn't really train. I could ride a bike a little bit. I couldn't race. I went to college to run, redshirted my freshman year, didn't get any better, like health wise, changed colleges, came home. They didn't have a college program. And it finally got with a doctor by the time I was a sophomore in college after missing entire high school senior year, freshman year, sophomore year of college, and then was like, all right, now I can run again. And so I was able to start to build back up there. We picked up a cross country team my senior year of college. I got to run 1 year in college, which was a lot of fun. But it was from that point that I learned that, hey, just being adaptable and working around things. And that's how I like to train. And then on top of that, I learned to not tie my sense of self to whatever that outcome was, whether I was finishing with a PR, whether I was winning a race. That didn't matter as much anymore because I had to go figure out what am I apart from the sport. And I was really pissed when I couldn't run for a long time. I was like, and I kind of went through a crisis of self where you're like, who am I? Because this is what I've been through a lot of pivotal points, which I mean, again, 25, I'm young. There'll be a lot more pivotal points as I grow up. But that age from like 13 to 17 and stuff, that's what I identified as an athlete, as a runner. That goes away. Now you're 18 and you don't know who you are, and you got to figure that out. And not do it in ways that get you caught up in like partying, drugs, drinking, and then you just end up way off the side. I just buried my head in books and became rather nerdy.
It's so interesting. I find I have a similar background where I track world, and then I had to redshirt my 4th year, and I also had I was like, what am I if I'm not Bethany the runner? And
Yep.
you really, it was a massive crisis for me at the time too, because I had 3 years of successful collegiate running, and it was just, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I don't know if every athlete at some point has to hit this point too, where they have to really evaluate who I am outside of their sport. So, and it was interesting too, because that was one wave too, that I came into hybrid racing, into rock climbing and different things, where it's like, if I'm not running, I'm still going to be okay. I'll always be active though. So did you find that too, where you found other outlets where it didn't have to be just about running?
So I still stayed involved with the sport and wanted to be around it. The other outlets were, like I said, it became very focused on academics. So at that point, I was studying biology, going pre-med, and thought like, hey, I want to go be a doctor. And I knew that to be a doctor, all right, I was going to have really a high GPA. I was going to need to get a good MCAT score. I was going to need to do internships and stuff like that. So I became just the same level of focus that I would have had towards running, just got shifted that way. And I did stay active. Like I would just up on my feet, moving all the time. I'd get out, I used to hate going for walks as a runner. I was like, I can't stand walking. Like if I'm not running, what are we doing, people? So then from there, I was like, okay, actually walking in the woods isn't that bad. So yeah, it was like, I just want to stay generally fit, but then everything was just study. I want 4.0 GPA, and it became honed in on that for 3 years.
So I just think that both of you have a severe lack of creativity, because when I was that age, I quickly discovered that I could identify as Dave, the eater of pizza and drinker of beer. And I don't believe that didn't pop up as an option for either of you two. It's very simple, cheap. Well, not so cheap, but it's easy. It's quite simple. You really should have thought of it.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I did notice I have a huge appetite, and I was maybe looking into competitive eating. I was like, I'm gonna eat that. I can eat a lot. Like, and I was like looking up things. I was like, how many pounds of baked beans? All right, we will get to work on this. Like, I'm happy to say that I ended up doing Hyrox races instead of shoveling baked beans. But the competitive nature's got to go somewhere, and I can understand.
So okay, and Bethany kind of mentioned it. When did you shift? When did you pivot straight out of just plain running into? Because you did go into OCR, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I did. That happened in 2019. So at that point, I had graduated college. I was done kind of running. I was in the same town that I had grown up in and everything. And I was like, okay, I'll do a 5K here, 5K there. And I started with Spartan races. And that was a fun start, to be honest with you, because I signed up for one in North Carolina. Did a great job of reading what day I was supposed to show up. I showed up on the wrong day, and I was like, I'm here to run the sprint. And they're like, today's the super. I was like, well, I'm not paying for another hotel room. How much does it cost to do the super now? And like a $75 transfer fee. Take my money. So I was just like, all right, we're doing a super. And I ran those in a pair of like track spikes that didn't have the spikes in them. So I was like, all right, we're about to do 8 miles. And my obstacle proficiency was garbage. I did 180 burpees that day. And I think I finished 22nd or something like that. I was like, I'm here for the elite wave. Let's go. And everything was going really good until like obstacle 5. And then everything started going really, really bad. And so what would happen is I still had that engine. So I would like fail the obstacle, rip the burpees, and get up and just start running. And then I'd catch all the people that I lost like from doing the burpees. And then about that time we'd hit another obstacle, fail it. And that just happened at two races. I slowly got a little bit better at the obstacles. I podiumed in Atlanta at a sprint, and that was my 3rd race. And then I got in like 2 more races before kind of COVID came in and everything got just shut down for the most part. And I haven't raced any of those since then.
So just a quick question. In the time you got 3rd in the elite wave, did you fail anything there? Did you have to do burpees on that one?
No, I did not.
There you go.
No, I did not. That was the one race that I went clean at. Yeah, the other ones, I think I failed. I failed 6 the first time, 5 the second time, clean the 3rd time, and then the others. Unfortunately, the beats that I did, I had to take a lot of burpees because I dislocated my shoulder at mile 8 on the Olympus. So I had to insult the injury. Like I reach out, I grab it, shoulder comes out, I like fall off. I'm standing there, I look at the lady, I'm like, all right, I know what to do because I've dislocated my shoulders multiple times, and I just put it back in. I'm like, all right, time for burpees. And here we go. I still got like 4 miles left in the race. And so when it came to any like overhead swinging from that point, it was like, well, touch it, burpees. And so that kind of, that threw a wrench into that race. But I mean, fifth, I'll take fifth.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, whatever. So, after your illustrious Spartan career,
yes.
Perhaps did you decide maybe obstacles aren't my thing, so let's look at this other thing?
No, that is not. No. I started really ramping up, kind of like training my obstacle proficiency and everything, and went to Jacksonville at the beginning of 2020 and raced down there. Only problem going into that was I had like a knee injury, so my running wasn't where I needed it to be, and I missed the spear because I stepped on the rope.
Oh.
And that got me. And then for some reason I couldn't climb a rope that day, so ropes were just the bane of my existence on that day. So I don't know what happened, but I finished like 10th in that, and I was like, okay, that's fine. We had a really bad day and got 10th. That's cool. And so I had already planned out my entire season, like where I was going to race at and everything like that. And I was going to make a good run at Spartans. I felt my grip had gotten better. My obstacle proficiency was going to be good, and I was going to give it a go. And then everything shut down. And so that's when the Hyrox VCF pops up. And that's how this got started.
Go through it, man. Do it. So
with that,
the first one or the second one?
Let's go to go to the second VCF.
Yeah, did you do the first VCF? Because it was 2. Did you do it the first year or the second year or both?
Both.
Okay.
So because they were pretty close together. So the second year was in like February of 2021. The first year was in late summer of 2020.
Yeah.
So I did both. And I think I just saw a social media post for it or something to that effect. And I was like, hey, this looks kind of cool. I don't have the equipment to do the equipment division. Let's do body weight. So I do the first body weight workout and end up finishing in like a pretty decent, I think I was sitting 5th overall. And I was like, hey, it's not bad. First off, body weight is not conducive for like 6'2" and lanky.
Yeah.
It's like you got burpees and jump lunges and air squats. I'm like, do you see my legs, man? You know how far I got to squat? And Forrest Bogue is out there doing these things. I'm like, this is not right. Like,
yeah.
Which of course it is, right? It's body weight competition. It's what you signed up for, buddy. But I was like, hey, I'm 5th right now, and this is other people around the world doing this. And so I ended up finishing 10th or 11th and winning the age group, which was the first kind of thing for me that I was like, all right, I like this. Let's see what a real race is. And so I looked into that. I signed up for the one that was supposed to be February 28th in Dallas, but then got moved because of restrictions and everything. So I do the second VCF to try to qualify for the elite wave, come up a little short in that. But just being the psycho that I am, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sign up for like both. I want to do the body weight and the equipment on the same day. And we'll just really focus on the equipment and see how that goes, and then do the other body weight ones later in the day. And I mean, it went okay, but it didn't go as good as I think I could have done. So that's why I wasn't in the elite wave in Dallas, because I hadn't finished in top 3.
So really, you pretty much just came from like an Instagram ad, and that's where you saw it and just jumped on board.
I really feel like that's what happened. I feel like it was either that or like I saw somebody else who I had met through Spartan. They had maybe like sent it to me or something like that, or like they were like, hey, I'm doing this. I was like, all right, that looks cool. I'll do it. I don't have that much going on right now. Let's go to buddy Grant's house. I'm gonna go to his garage and we're gonna rip this out. Like, so yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
So before that, you didn't really do like, we'll call it circuit training or anything along that lines, or?
I had maybe started to do a little bit, but I mean, I wasn't good at it. I wasn't very good. I mean, I would do some burpees here and there, and I mean, I was bad on a rower. I was pretty, compared to where I am now, I was not good at all. but yeah, I saw that and started doing those and actually did well in it. And I was like, well, the engine's there. And so then I just started kind of diving down that Hyrox rabbit hole and then started incorporating like circuit training. And then I wasn't very strong, so I started adding the weights in. And now it's become basically like my preferred and go-to style of training.
I mean, Bethany, okay, so you're my coach, Beth. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm hiring you as a coach. And I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. I want to get into this hybrid racing thing, and I'm 6'2", and I'm lanky, and I'm really fast. What do you recommend? And would Hyrox be the one you'd recommend, or would you go maybe somewhere else?
I know when I saw you after I looked you up after the Dallas race too, and I was like, I love it when someone comes into a sport where they just kind of blow the stereotypes out of the water when it has to do with the ideal body type, because I kind of hate that anyways, the whole what's the ideal. So because you can't tell just by looking at someone what they're good at. So you won the pro heat in Dallas. So I was like, this guy's strong still. So you can still be able to use your body without necessarily being like you're 40 to 50 pounds less than some of the guys then that you're beating, like David and Hunter, who might be what they would consider the ideal body type. So what I would, for someone like you, like obviously you have the engine and you have the running, so necessarily to put on extra weight to be better at two of the events would take away from the things that you're also really good at. So let's just keep using your strength and then push and pull sleds like crazy so you're efficient at them. But like other than that, I would just keep focusing, do your strengths really well and push some sleds.
Because it's funny because we go on and everybody talks about how strong you need to be to do Hyrox, right? How you're supposed to be a stronger person, like compare it to Deca Fit, right? Where Deca is really anybody can do it. You don't need the strength. It is pure engine, really. Whereas everybody talks about how strong it is. But if you can get through the push and the pull, is there really that much more strength involved in it?
No. The thing that is there though is like how much do you have to exert on that push and pull, because it does blow your quads and calves up. So I mean that's it. I'm not conventionally strong. Back squat it's not good. Like I can't back squat very well. I can't front squat very well. My deadlift is not going to blow you away. Rich Ryan is stronger than I am, like 100%, no questions asked. But that's the thing. Like you don't have to back squat or deadlift. You have to be able to move a sled, and that's unconventional strength. And sometimes when you move outside of the conventional lifts, people are stronger than you would actually anticipate based on sort of your standard metrics. And like Bethany said, it's just getting efficient at those movements, being strong in those positions. And that's what I worked on. I still can't back squat well. But I can move a sled. So
I think it's interesting too, because we talked about this a lot too when I was in university too, is sports specificity. So train exactly for what you're doing. And the cool thing about Hyrox versus coming from a sport like OCR is you know exactly what you have to do. Yep. So you have your 8 events, so you train them to be as efficient as possible. You get your body super used to those specific things, and then you just hammer away at that. So there's no deadlifts in Hyrox. So how much you can deadlift, although yes, it helps with training, but it's sort of irrelevant in some ways because it's not actually part of the sport, except for strengthening certain areas of your body.
So the biggest thing that I would say, like if you're trying to look at, okay, where does a deadlift translate over to? Go with a trap bar deadlift and look at how that might translate over to a sled pull based on the position you have to get into. You can look at that, and that's what I do. Like I do trap bar sort of training and stuff like that, because that also helps with your farmer's carries, your grip strength based on like your hand position. You're not overhand holding farmer's carries, you're on the inside like that. So there is I watched one of the interviews after the race where Hunter did say, he's like, where Dylan's going to improve is if he does put in a big block of strength work, and he's not wrong there. He's very much correct. But as to whether or not a big block of strength work means you got to add 20 pounds, you don't.
Yeah. So this is where this is something I was curious too. Is so if you're going to do another Hyrox, is your goal then to gain weight at the expense of your strength, which is your running? Or are you just going to keep doing what you're doing now and can stay consistent then with your weight?
I think so. I mean, if my weight moves, my weight moves. I know that I can run like 16:30 at 170 pounds, and I can run maybe 16:20 or 16:15 at this weight right now, which is like 160, 162 or something like that. So I'm not going to sacrifice that much time if I do put on any weight, but that would just be something that comes along with if my training shifts, like maybe muscle just ends up showing up because I'm eating a little bit in a surplus and I'm lifting heavier things. That happens. I have a pretty slight frame, but I've got wide shoulders, so like weight will come onto my shoulders if I just start doing heavier lifts and stuff like that. But it wouldn't be a super concerted effort because I keep like teetering back and forth. I'm like, I should do it. I should get to 185 pounds and see what I can do. And then there's the other part of me that's like, it is kind of cool being the really small guy. I actually sort of like that. And I like being the person who can bring that body type into the sport. I think it's good to have a niche. I mean, you've got your bigger guys that's covered. Biceps win races. We've got that covered. Like we already know who owns that. So what am I going to do? Show up with biceps that are slightly smaller and then try to win races that way? If I just bulk up, no, we're not going to do that. I'm going to be like, be lanky, eat cookies. Let's go.
There's a good t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, and you seem to have found a pretty good balance, though. So you don't want to try too hard to do something that might just throw things off anyway. So just keep training hard, and then what ends up happening with your body happens with your body. That's kind of the way I look at things anyways.
That's how I've played it.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, this is kind of where I sit at. But there does need to be a change just slightly with regards to maybe a little more concentrated lifting, a little like deviate from the circuit work, not to the point where it's really out, like pushed out and you just focus in on the heavy lifting, but there needs to be some heavier stuff that I put into the program, because that has made me better when I did that with the sleds, and I think it will continue to make me better.
Yeah, because I mean, if you were to like, if I look at the numbers and stuff, really, like, let's just say for argument's sake, you put on 20 pounds and you could keep up on the sled push or pull with 100. I mean, you're talking gaining maybe 30 seconds there at the expense of who knows what on the rest of what you do so well.
Yeah. I think the deficit can be made up from a strength standpoint without putting on the weight.
Yeah, I agree.
And go ahead.
Something that, occurs to me too is on that sled pull, right? One of the things that the weight helps obviously is you get a little pull from the extra weight, right? Like you say you're about 160 pounds, right? Whereas let's say for argument's sake, I'm about 180. So I have to pull 20 pounds less because I just lean back and it already happens.
Yeah.
But you are also 6'2", which gives you that fulcrum of leverage, right? So that angle as well helps you with that. I like I said, I don't think putting on the weight necessarily would help you. Strength always is going to help, but weight necessarily, I don't think that you need that.
I mean, based on what I did from Dallas to now, both of those numbers moved in a positive direction, and that's down, while the weight didn't move anywhere. It just stayed the same. And that all came from how I tailored my training. And I can get stronger. I'm definitely not at the peak of where I can be strength-wise. So I think we just keep moving in that direction on that. And I think you're right. I'll use the lanky length to my advantage.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm amazed. Like as I think Bracken put it well. You have he was really happy to see you do so well because you are that outlier. You are that different. You break the mold. You make things a little more exciting, a little more interesting. And I think it's awesome. And I was impressed with your confidence beforehand, and I was really impressed that you backed it up. I mean,
well, yeah, I do not want to come across as like conceited or cocky in any way when I speak to things. Like I'll not overshoot what I think I can do. I'm not gonna be chirping in somebody's ear like, I can do this, I can throw down. And when it's not there, like there's got to be something. I'm too logical and empirical to be like, all right, just off in la la land dreaming about what I could probably do. There's got to be numbers that I'm looking back on. So if I tell you something that I think I can do, there's a reason.
So my next
So
question.
what can you do next? What's next?
So next race wise, so my next race will be at the end, hopefully at the end of July and right into early August. I'm going to go do the Grit Games down in Texas. So they held a virtual competition. And one of the guys who was on the team, I believe, Daniel Wilson, he sent me over the information right before the virtual competition started. And he was like, hey, saw you down in Dallas, might want to do this. So I signed up and did that and ended up winning that. And then they reached out to me and they're like, hey, you want to come down and do the Grit Games for real? And I was like, well, yeah, you guys are really nice. I like y'all. So I'm going to fly down to Texas. Let's do this. So that's my next thing on the schedule, that I know for certain. Then after that, to jump ahead to where the next thing that I have scheduled slated in would be October 12th, the Boston Marathon. So I qualified for that back in November, which we could get down a heck of a rabbit hole how all of that happened. Basically, I ended up running. I ran a marathon because I broke my wrist. That's what happened. That's what happened. I moved to New Hampshire. Within 10 days, I broke my wrist in 8 places. I was like, I can't do anything else, like with my hands. So I started running more. I ran a 50K that I set up on my own. I told my boss about it. He said, that's pretty fast. There's a marathon in 12 days. Go try to qualify for Boston. So I signed up for that and then qualified for Boston. So he and I are going to run that together in October.
You ran a marathon right after you ran a 50K?
Yeah, so I did the 50K on Saturday, 2 weeks before the marathon. I told my boss on Monday, he was like, there's a marathon 12 days in Manchester. Go race that. I was like, all right, let's go.
That's impressive. And you recovered from that.
Yeah, it didn't, I was back to normal by, if I did that on Saturday morning, I think I was back to normal by Monday afternoon. Like I think I might have taken Sunday off.
Had some pancakes.
Yeah, I had some pancakes, laid around like pancake. And I was like, all right, well, back to doing other things. So, but that was,
I can ask, how'd you break your wrist in 8 places?
Oh, I was climbing on something, actually like practicing grip strength, and I didn't have the grip strength. And so I fell and actually hit my elbow. It took my wrist, compacted it up, and shattered it like in the joint. And my dumb self, I was like, just a sprain. Like I was like, we're fine. I'm good. So I get up, go about the rest of my day. Like I can't even turn my hand to crank my car. I'm like, it'll be okay. It's good. I put a splint on it, go home, wake up at 2 a.m. and it's just going thump, thump, thump. And I'm like, yeah, I probably need to go to the doctor. And then they x-ray it. And the more that they looked at it, they're like, yep, that's broken. And then they like do an MRI through there and they're like, yeah, this thing is destroyed. You're having surgery. And so now I've got plates and screws all in my hand.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
How's that affected now? So now, and you say you're going to the Grit Games, which is cool, but the Grit Games is a very obstacle efficient thing they do. How's your hand for doing that now?
It's okay. The only thing that I can't really do is like if you're doing a bicep curl, but you're not doing a hammer curl, bringing that hand in just a little bit, that supination there when the weight's kind of like buckling right in on the inside of the wrist, a little bit of issue with that. But from a grip standpoint, it has not affected me too much. I managed to regain all of that back. There haven't been any nerve issues. So, I mean, I should be able to do fine.
Ah, that's awesome. That Grit Game's cool. What was your marathon time?
2:47:58.
Nice.
It's
okay.
Yeah. I mean, that was, my goal was 254 going in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, primarily, I didn't run that much, to be honest, to get ready for it. I run like 30 miles a week, 35 miles a week, and just do everything else on the bike. Because my body doesn't get hammered as much when I do that. So I can just do crazy volume aerobically and just like meter out when I do my runs and do them hard and go for a long time and then take a big rest in between them and the legs seemed to respond well to that. So it was my marathon training plan wouldn't make any sense either.
And that's probably that bike thing. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's probably you doing so much on the bike is probably why your body can withstand all those hard workouts again and again and again, and then just your occasional one, because you're not your joints and your body's not taking that pounding. Like we all know running just beats the shit out of you, right?
Yeah, it does. Like when guys will talk about, they're like, yeah, I'm doing 60, 70-mile weeks, which I mean is not crazy. I mean, I've had friends who were pretty high level runners run 90 to 110. And I'm like, I would not survive doing that. So I really don't like to go above 35 miles a week if I run that much, to be honest. Right now, it probably sits at 25.
So is, I mean, I don't know if is most of your running now, is it like would you term like a quality run, like a hard run, hard interval, stuff like that? And then you're doing like your kind of zone 2 easy crap on the bike. Is that kind of
just, how you're doing? Yeah. It's very seldom that I just go out and like, hey, I'm going to do an easy jog. I might do that if I'm like meeting with a friend or something, like, hey, let's just get together and go run for a little bit and we'll just jog easy. And there's no pressure on it and everything. And my body holds up fine. But normally if I'm going to run, I'm either going to run far or I'm going to run fast. And that's kind of the way I dictate it. There's no real, let's do some time on leg work for no reason for 30 minutes. I can get that on the bike, basically.
Nice.
Interesting.
I'm sold. Running sucks. I hate running.
Yeah, I mean that, or if you want to be about as specific as you can be with a lack of impact, the arc trainer. Using one of those, that's very setting the settings on about 12 on the incline and about 35 to 45 on the resistance, and not using your arms with it. It's pretty similar to that running gait. And I was able to build really good just running specific fitness on that when I was hurt for a while.
That's awesome. I'm blown away, man. That's cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, your training is very interesting. So when do we see you again at Hyrox?
So at the latest, I would hope December, Boston, Brent Hastert, and I try to break the doubles world record.
Nice.
I think that would be the latest that I would pop back up, unless like something happens from an injury standpoint or anything like that.
I'd put money on you boys doing it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. As long as both of us show up like well trained and everything, I think that we can take it down. I've sat down and crunched the numbers, and I think it's very doable. I would like to be able to do one before then. I mean, but Dallas in August won't happen. World Championships in September, very, very low likelihood of that happening. Doubt I'll fly to Los Angeles. And I don't know if there's any others between Los Angeles and Boston that have been announced until now.
Just so you know, I qualified for the World Championship. Just so you know, I got my email. That's right.
Yep. Are you going?
I've never even done one yet. No.
I mean, hey,
I qualified on the VCF, right? I haven't had a chance to do one yet.
Yeah, listen. You got the email, all right? We're better to do one at than Germany, where it came from.
Exactly. You know, you got to announce your presence at the door.
That's what I'm talking. Just show up, knock, knock. It's me, Ugly Dave. Let's go.
Step up, bitches.
Exactly.
No, it'll be good. My plan actually, we're hoping for Boston. I want to make for Boston, so that'll be a good one. And I don't think I'm going to be hitting the 62 marker, but I will say I'm going to be a threat for the old guy age group thing. So
go for it. I'm all for once you start to kind of, I mean, once you start to like phase out of wherever your peak fitness years would be. I mean, I don't want people to just be like, all right, I'm done. I'll never PR again. No, you set your PRs by decade. And You're like, what's my PRs in my 40s? What's in my 50s? And then because at the end of the day, it's what are you drawing from it, like as a person? And that doesn't go away regardless of age. Like, what are you getting from the training process and stuff? The times might slow down. Who cares? The community's there. Like, you're bettering yourself. You're staying in shape. You're allowing yourself to be so much more versatile in other facets of life.
See, I'm a lucky guy because, in my 30s, I never ran. I didn't do anything. Well, actually, I fought and I could win a fight, but I couldn't win a race. But Now I've slowly gotten faster as I've gotten older. So I'm going in the reverse direction. I'm thinking by the time I'm 55, I'm going to go for world championships of 50. I'm going to set records for 55-year-olds. That's the plan.
Okay, so you'll be setting records for 55-year-olds, and see by then, like with the training I do, my body will be breaking down. So we might face off.
Exactly.
I'll like you'll be at peak fitness. I'll be limping around. I'm like, come back here, Dave.
I tell you what, at my 180 in my background, I think I still got a better chance in the fight than I do on the run.
I agree.
Anyway,
Not looking for fisticuffs.
I'm all done. I'm absolutely amazed, man. You blow me away. Congratulations on the second place. And in reality, that was all anybody was going to get. It's awesome. It was just a fantastic race. So much fun to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah. And same, like, thanks so much for coming on and joining us. And I'm very just really interested in your training. I'll keep following you. I hope people check you out as well on Instagram. Keep posting your workouts because it's quite a unique training program. But all the best in the fall then with whatever you end up doing with your marathon and with the Grit Games, and hopefully see you then in December at your next Hyrox.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'll keep posting things up. And I mean, pretty open person. You can come reach out, talk to me, send me a message, whatever.
Actually, yeah. Is there, how do people get a hold of you? And do you have any sponsors or anything like that you want to shout
out? So the best way to get, I answer pretty well on Instagram. So my Instagram would be Dylan Scott 5991, which is just a sneaky way of throwing that birth year in reverse. So we got that. From a sponsor standpoint, no. My biggest sponsor would definitely be the Suitcase of Courage, which is the company I work for. I've got an amazing boss there, where it's a great company with what we do. Just it allows me to blend in kind of fitness into my everyday life. And he understands. He's been a high level athlete before, and so he actually helped me get out to Chicago and everything. And he was like, "Dude, go crush it." So that's my biggest sponsor, is going to be Suitcase of Courage, and then just my family and friends and everything. They sponsor me in an emotional way.